today, I'm not 100% sure, but recently I have been doing more stuff with perspective-based things of this sort of blockhead. Messing with just having a cube form. Maybe I do a weird thing where I take this block and I change its movement to a defined destination, and I have it animate in that direction, and then it condenses. So this front edge, this solid section, starts off back here, and then it moves forward and extends along these edges. Hello, Eve. Welcome to Friday. I thought it was Thursday today, and yes, now I also thought it was Saturday. My sense of time a little bit off. I'll put this window so I get a little bit more natural light happening. Let's say it goes from like there to there, and then so this front face extends here, and then this condenses back, and this whole back edge condenses forward, and then it's in a new position. And just having the weird sense of perspective, having it move around a few times. Where it has to be slightly off each time. And it doesn't grow in scale, but maybe you get a sense of movement. So what I'll do initially is plot out like 4 spots that it can land in that have to be slightly off of one another, so that you get a perspective. So if you have like this to here, what you get is an elongated object like that, and then if you move it down here, you get this sort of perspective, and then you can also have it up here, and then it just returns back. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. Glad you made it through the week. It's a new tape that you're hearing. This is a different one. This is Clap Your Hands, Say Nah, because it's got a lot of drum machine claps on it. And Clap Your Hands, Say Yeah was a band that I listened to a little bit in high school. It wasn't like my favorite band, but they were present. Which one is this? Blockhead. Let's go to the first Blockhead as a reference. I might actually establish the positioning, or create an outline that's just a referential still drawing, so that I can have one that's purely an outline. Because what I have been doing is coming back to previous animations, and that's not the best method for doing what I want to do. Okay. Ink. This is the ink that's got ink in it. Or the ink container that has ink in it. That's there, and this one looks like it's behaving okay. I am recording. Cool. I'm glad that you got your pen. You're the one who ordered the pen, correct? I just don't want to be confused on bits. Eve, you ordered the pen, which I appreciate you doing. And okay, cool. I was gonna be like, and if it's not you, appreciate whoever did order it. It was nice, and I appreciate you being here and doing things. And you got the little figure, the little toy is from. I was painting things for that toy vending machine, and there's I ordered a bunch of different architectural model things, like little figures that are meant to go with architectural models. They're little just blank figures that you can put to show a sense of scale and give people a perspective. And they're relatively cheap. They're cheaper than any toys that I could find that weren't like at the dollar store or something. Dollar store has relatively inexpensive toys, but to get the number and the more anonymous and sort of appearance and style, because the whole sort of purpose of those guys is to not be so much a part of the to show scale, but just sort of a practical, largely anonymous sense of scale. So this will be frame number 1. I think I got... Well, if she wants a bunch of those little tiny figurines, you can get like 100 of them for pretty cheap. I think I might have... Yeah, I got a tiny one here. This little guy. I think this is the approximate size of the one that you ended up with. It was like this little guy. The figures, there are a few that are sitting, some that are standing. They're just sort of like plastic mold toys. They're not toys. They're also pretty small for being a toy, since they could be a choking hazard. But if you search like architectural scale figures, you can find them pretty inexpensive for the number that you're getting. If your mom wants to collect a number of them, you can get more expensive ones that are painted prior. Not crazy more expensive, just more expensive than what I was looking for, and I was also generally looking for anonymous things. Okay, what I'm going to do here, I think, is... Should I do different scales of these? I'm going to get just the initial... This is a reference frame as well. I like the idea... I might try sketching and seeing what this looks like as a concept. If I aim to change the scale, I think it might be worthwhile. I think it would make for a potentially more interesting thing. So let's say I have a square over here. What you end up with, this might, you know what? You're on this with a ruler. It's practical, it makes sense. I was trying to like not use a ruler for a while just because I like the idea of things being more hand-drawn, and it will have that sort of effect. Yeah, I think what I'm gonna end up doing is just having this reference going. Maybe I go initially in a direction. Okay, figuring things out. I'm going to just treat this as a second thing in a slightly different position that's a little bit more sort of understood, so to speak, and then adjust from there. Because I think if I immediately go for this more distorted change in shape, that it's not going to go quite as well. But if I go for a more sort of direct thing, it sort of establishes what the concept is for the first movement, and then the second movement can be exaggerated or a little bit more experimental, and then from there change it up some more and change it up from there again, and then return back. Okay, so I think I am just going to go through this as squares and then come back and add the face. That seems like the best course of action for me. This can be set here. And I can grab this guy. Don't know if anybody celebrates, but Happy Lunar New Year if you do. Chinese New Year. I guess Lunar New Year is a little bit more all-encompassing. This guy. Just need to advance it a bit more. I should probably keep all that for the upcoming ones. You like this music? I've not uploaded this music yet. This was a tape that I finished just yesterday. But if you want similar music, you can check out these. Nope, it's just singular. There it is. Okay, there's some YouTubes that have two. Right now I only have two uploaded there, but it's just music that I make with a little drum machine and synth app on my phone. And the cassette that you see in the upper left corner, that's the cassette playing back currently. It's a live feed. So once the tape ends, I'll walk over there and flip it. It's a novelty that I have. Yeah, thanks for saying that you like the music. It's a nice little reassuring thing. There's also a bunch of other YouTube videos on that channel that playlist is connected to. Previous streams, stuff like that. I'm not sure if you've watched before, Mr. Scott. I'm just gonna say Mr. Scott. I'm not sure. Or Scott Cameron, maybe, is what you're trying to, or what your vowels would fill in the blanks on. I'm not sure. Cool. Well, if it is your first time, welcome. If it isn't your first time, welcome back. Thanks for joining. If you have any questions, you can throw them out there. I'll try to answer. I think this next one, no, I'm gonna do midway between. Slightly running on nose. This tape won't be uploaded as a thing for a few days at least. It takes, I have to record the full process, and then it takes like an additional bit of time on top of that to I like recording the actual tape itself, like video and audio straight through, and then doing a little bit of cleaning it up, a little bit of editing, not too much. And then I have to save that video and upload it, so it takes a minute. I have one that I need to upload that each of these tapes has like a particular sound on the drum machine. Each kit has, or each tape has one drum kit preset that I've been using. That might change over time, but as it is right now, each tape has like a different sound that's pretty prevalent. And this one is the drum machine hand clap. I like using the sounds that drum machines have that don't sound like actual things, like loosely, but not accurately, that it has a quality to it that is distinctly drum machine sounding. And so the two things that I think of for that are woodblock, or not woodblock, hand claps and certain snares, but particularly it's cowbells. The cowbell sound, like an 808 cowbell, is a weird sound. It sounds like someone loosely imitating a cowbell, but not accurately, or really actually. And so that's what one of the other tapes is. This one is focused on hand claps. And I made a cover for it last night that is, I traced and then added some additional details, sort of bits of Jeb Bush. I'm not sure how aware people are. It's not a feels like it wasn't that long ago, but it also feels like it was very long ago when he was running for the Republican primary, and at one point he has a sadness about him that I think is funny, because he's also like the brother of a president and the son of a president, and like the closest thing to I forget if it's oligarchy, if that's the name, but like Republican monarchy, modern monarchy, of like your son becomes a thing, and then maybe your other son of the Bushes, but he's the one who is the least notable in his political career. He's not notable because he was like governor of Florida, but it's just like political nepotism is my understanding of how that took place. Not exactly nepotism, but like family legacy stuff. But on his campaign, it was when stuff was not going the best for him, that he, which was most of the campaign, but at one point he was doing like a town hall sort of thing, or like that sort of deal, and he finished his speech and it was silent for half a second, and I think he was just sort of generally exhausted and tired and sad, and he finished and no one really knew what to do, and he just says, "Please clap," and it's funny to me, and so that's what I drew on the cover of the little insert that I made for this cassette tape. Jeb Bush saying, "Please clap." For someone who's like lacking in like that natural sense of charisma, it's funny that his campaign, like his graphics and stuff, was just Jeb exclamation mark. It's like the most enthusiasm that he had as a candidate, as a primary candidate, was in his logo. That's kind of funny, considering that he was trying to be the leader of the... Yep, it was Jeb. Jeb! He also had on his campaign website, in his store, you could buy guacamole. You could buy like a $70 guacamole mortar, pestle, like just a bowl. Just weird. And also he handed out little tiny turtles on his campaign because a kid gave him turtles earlier on. But then there's also interviews where like he's just saying like, "Why do you guys keep asking about the turtles?" And it's exactly what it's the sort of thing, like, if you didn't make a point of it, then it wouldn't be interesting. It's only because he expressed a reaction, like did stuff with the little toy turtles that this kid gave him and shared them. That's the only reason why people were interested in them, is because it was weird stuff, odd things, but not dangerous in the way that Trump has in his bits and styles of things. I'll show that on camera in a minute. Just a little illustration that I did where I traced the general outlines and then added details. Jam! There's also something on his campaign site that was something about like if you say my dad's not the best dad, we can step outside, or something along the lines of like, I'm gonna fight you if you don't say that you love my dad. Just like trying to play into the Bush legacy, but doing so in a weird way. It's weird. Weird candidate, weird person. He was a governor of Florida. I think during the Bush administration. It's one of the reasons why they're like Bush barely carried Florida. And still lost the popular vote. There's the tape popping. Now I'll get to flip it. And that action will take the opportunity to grab the Jeb bit and show you that guy. It might be a little bit, you gotta see what it looks like because it'll be shiny. Please clap. And it just says clap a bunch of times. That's my Jeb tape. It's a joke for a few people. I don't think... I've got a number of friends that are sort of hyper-focused on... Oh, you're in Germany. You are generally more aware of, well, I guess American politics sort of permeate throughout. The most that I know about German politics is Merkel, and I don't know much about her. That's just sort of, I have a general awareness that she exists, and ask my German friend if she liked Merkel, and she's like, no. I think internationally realize that there's a perception that whoever is in power is understood to be like representative of all the people there, but most of the time, like, she's still running, but it's her last year. Okay. I also don't know how the political parties are set up in Germany. My friend explained it at some point, but I have since forgotten. But she did talk about more far-right groups that are growing in popularity in Germany. She lives in New York now, but talked a little bit about that. At some point I watched a Vice series that went around to different spots. Hate Thy Neighbor, I think is what it is. It's a I think Jamaican British dude, but he goes to different spots, and everyone, because he has a beard, they assume that he's Arab, but he's not. But he doesn't go to Germany, but he went to Ukraine, I believe. He went to different spots in the US. It's number 9. And he went and talked to people in Sweden, I believe, that were far right and white supremacist sort of groups. And he confronted them about anti-Islamic, they're Islamophobic and anti-immigrant things. And the guy was like, that's not me. And he's like, it's you. It's from your account. You own this website. And he's like, no, it's not me. And the dude's trying to play off that he's like a young professional sort of dude and scared of the left-leaning groups that will physically attack them. But he's also promoting some very violent sort of rhetoric. Didn't mean to get on that, but that's... I don't know that much about German politics. Or the structural things about it in general. I think I'm just going to do one more sort of general outline here. What I'm doing right now is something of trying to play with a little bit of the linear aspects of like a motion blur. Hey, sexy sustainability. I did end up, I'll throw it out here. Hope you're doing well. Appreciate you joining up. But I did start a Discord. And so I'll throw that in the chat here. If you're wanting to join, it's not too much going on there right now. It's mostly just me posting when I'm about to go live, and then I might have a slight announcement of something. I get sidetracked with things kind of frequently, and posting on like 4 different platforms that I have some sort of presence to be like, I'm live, here's the thing, here you can buy this, here you can join up here. It's not super active, but I'm learning how best to go about it. But there are some people who are interacting with it, and I appreciate your suggestion to have a Discord. Seems like it's a positive thing. I think it also resulted in a couple more people following me on Twitch, and 1 or 2 people subscribing. So I got subscription stuff. Oh wait, did this get approved? Do I got this here? I think it's tier 2, but I got that emote that I threw in there of the circular guy. If I get more subscribers, then I can put more emotes in the tier 1 thing. But right now it's just the round guy and the square guy. And then eventually might try to like design one live or something. I don't have emotes set up on Discord right now, but I got the little circular dude and the rectangular dude, or the square dude. Blockhead and roundhead, or that's sort of how I generally classify them. This is 11. So now what I'm going to do is create a reference. Backwards. That seems super thin up top. I think I'm hitting a different selection of paper. I might need to cut some new paper. Let's see if this lines up or not. I might post a tiny bit on the schedule stream, but it's pretty inconsistent. I need to work at stuff. Just throw a like there. Stream schedule, it's just sort of a reminder of uploaded. Oh, it's private. Did I do that? Edit channel. Permissions. It says that it's not private. I don't think. Announcement channel. I'll figure it out later. But no one can type in it. Oh, okay, that's what the thing is. I don't know. My friend set up some bits of it because he's a little bit more versed in it, and he just might have made it so it was more of an announcement page. Appreciate it. Mostly what's happening on the stream schedule thing is that once I'm done, I'll post like, done for the day. Here's a link if you want to watch the stream that happened today. So I'll upload it to YouTube afterwards. Okay, now, where do I want this next square to be? It's another ref guy. So it started here, goes here. I think going small and off to this side might be advantageous. Or might look more interesting. It's gonna have a somewhat surreal perspective to it. Let's grab that for when I want to use that. And outline this. Dry that out as best I can. It's still pretty wet. This is just a reference page, so it doesn't have to be super clean, but if it's cleaner, I can see it better. So that's the advantage in that. Is that dude still on here? I meant to say Willkommen. Danke. That's about the extent of what I know in German. To the German person who's joined. Okay, so this is my new sort of reference. The first one was a little bit more straightforward in the movement because it's just essentially like a 45-degree movement and the face remains the same size. This one will have a little bit more sort of work to it because it's a little bit more awkward. You get a weird sense of perspective with this because this really should be getting... This has a... It's just a weird perspective in general. Like what you'd actually be viewing if this were to exist in a real space. It's a little bit awkward, but that's part of the sort of look, vibe, and appeal. So grab this guy. And what's happening next is gonna be starting to move a bit. These sides are going to be black, so it doesn't have to be perfect here. I actually could get away with just drawing these general outlines and avoiding these corner marks, but I like having the form a little bit more present. Further down. Yeah, audio playing, right? Cool. And this is number 11. Yeah, 11. might push this even further and make it almost look like it's bouncing around. After I sort of establish a general sense of movement. So at least in my experience, it's not necessarily true for everything or everyone. When I do something and try something out, I typically have better sort of experience or better outcome for the animation if I sort of explain it once or twice and then push it further, so that like the simpler and more straightforward the animation is initially, then you learn what it is you're looking at, and then the second time you can push it to be a little bit more playful or extreme with the movement, a little bit more experimental, a little bit more weirder, I don't know, less straightforward, and then you can push it a few times in succession after that. So the first one stayed the same size, went just in a general direction. This next one, it's going to be getting smaller, and it's also moving faster. First one I had like 3 or 4 stills to get to about midway between this point, the amount of movement, and this time it's just 2, which is a mixture of explaining the thing and then showcasing it. It's also me getting lazier the more that I work on something, or more impatient. The longer I spend working on something, typically the less time I want to be spending on it. But this is continuing the sort of experiment and trials that I've been messing with the last week or so, of trying to figure out more of doing linear geometric movements. Going from a blockhead, but using a lot more straight lines is essentially what I'm getting at. So the next one, I might have it settle slightly. So you can see the difference in movement here. This one is like a medium distance, this one's pretty big, and this one's even larger. That gives a sense of acceleration. Let me get a little bit tighter on this. I don't want to have to readjust the camera, but you can see this is the sort of starting point. 1 frame, 2 frame, 3 frames. It's increasing, so it gives a sense of acceleration, which is a more naturalistic movement. If everything is at constant speed, it looks robotic and digital, which isn't bad by design. It just is, you have to use it correctly. So this next one is going to be just a copy of this guy. Or no, I decided that I'm gonna have it ease slightly. So I'm going to actually go midway here. Whenever I do like halfway between and then halfway between that, it's the idea of like you ultimately never approach the thing, but makes me think of half-lives and chemistry. That a half-life is the amount of time that it takes for half of the radioactive materials in a thing to become non-radioactive. It's a way that you can date materials that are like millions of years old. But it's also something that you can think about, like the infinity of approaching something. You can have that in math terms for plotting out functions on graphs. I forget what the different, I think it's mostly exponential functions, where like if you have something cubed, it approaches a line. No, it's something else. An inverse, there's something that, like, when you graph it out, it approaches a line, but it never actually meets it. That's what I learned in pre-calc. This is 14. I'm gonna go halfway between that now, which gives it something of a cushion, and then I think I'll be just finish it off and do the like full final bit, and I'll be at 15 frames. So now it's decelerating. You can see this line to here to there, so it's, whoa, something of a curve. And you can have that effect executed digitally, and it can look fine. It's just not my preferred thing. Easing is what usually gets referred to in digital animation, anything where you have like a tween. You can ease things in and out, or you can adjust the acceleration on a graph. It's another application of graphing something in math. It's having something of a visual means of communicating movement that can be directly translated to a program in a digital space. Thanks for following, Mr. Scott. Oh, when you were, I don't know if you're still watching, but I got an email saying that I got a new follower, which is nice to have people following. Cool. I was gonna say that the limited amount of German that I know is because my dad studied, he learned German and he's okay at it, according to people that he knows that speak German. But he studied in Bern did a study abroad program, and so he learned Swiss German. And he has a friend that he still keeps up with from that time, Uli. And for a very long time I thought that Uli was short for got 5 notifications on this bit. Cool, some people talking in the Discord. Anyway, I thought that Uli was short for Willie or William, because that was the closest thing I had. And I think when I struggled with Uli, I always heard it as Willie, because I didn't have any context for people named Ulrich, even though later on, when I asked my dad about it, he was like, yeah, it's short for Ulrich, and I have an uncle Ulrich, and he's German. But when my dad has spoken with Uli, he's like, I'll practice my German with you, and it'll be good for me to practice. And he's like, I can't listen, you have a terrible accent. And that's funny to me, because I can't tell a difference with German accents. I know someone who is Venezuelan, and in my mind, I'm like, there's so many different southern accents because I grew up around southeastern United States, and like that's not a North Carolinian accent, or that's like not a North Carolinian accent from the Appalachian areas. But the Venezuelan guys, like, I can't tell American accents apart. I can tell that there's like a very strong southern accent, but that's about the extent of his ear for it. And I was like, that's weird, and I'm like, I really can't tell accents apart. The most that I can is like a little bit of some English accents, and even then it's like, are you from London? And they're like, no, I'm from anywhere but London. And I was like, well, it's not a Scottish accent, and that's about the extent that I get. And that Americans think that all English accents are like old Cockney things because of Mary Poppins. Swiss German, my understanding is that it has like a little bit more of a sing-song to it, and that's probably like having some Italian in there. Something I didn't know for a while is that, or at least I read this and I haven't done any fact check, but that Arnold Schwarzenegger's accent sounds like pretty rural to people who speak German. And so in Terminator, his voice was dubbed by someone who had a more like automated sounding sort of voice, because the idea was like this future robot wouldn't have an accent that's like a farmer. I don't actually have any fact checked on that, but just something I read at some point, and I was like, it's the thing that just makes me think about the fact that there are different kinds of accents. And I think he's Austrian. I'm not 100% sure. But for an American audience, it's just like German. Here's a different thing that I learned recently. James Cameron, the director, well, Terminator in general, the idea was more or less a slasher movie, but a robot. And the idea, like, there's a lot of slasher movies where you have the antagonist or the murderer, the killer, that just is an unstoppable force and just constantly advancing. And with a robot, that makes sense as well. It's a slasher movie, but with a robot. So that's one thing I learned, and it made sense as a click, like, oh, that works. And then the other thing is that James Cameron, the director, Arnold Schwarzenegger thought that he didn't like how it sounded when he said, I'll be back, and he had struggled with it a little bit, but also was like, that's not very robotic to use a contraction to say I'll. It's like, it should be I will be back. But James Cameron was like, no, it's gotta be this. And it was. And it was an iconic thing. But I can see struggling with I'll, an Austrian accent. I struggle with whatever accents I have. I can like fake my way a tiny bit through a tiny bit of a Spanish accent, but it's still pretty limited. And it probably just sounds like someone who learned in a classroom. I can't tell any sort of Spanish language accents apart. When I went to Scotland when I was little with my dad and sister, I remember being in a cab and we were in Glasgow, and the cab driver was asking questions that none of us could understand because he had a very strong Scottish accent. So there are examples of not being able to understand your own language. Or if you listen to like Middle English, stuff like that, where it's like this sounds like all the like sounds are there, but I just don't understand any of these words. Gotta flip the tape in a sec. I'm gonna finish outlining this. Language is interesting. I talk about it kind of frequently. That tape is over. Now it's time for cowbell. Show a little cowbell illustration. It's a cowbell wearing a cowboy hat. I didn't center it very well. I named this tape Cowbell Curtis, which is referencing Pee Wee Herman show, Pee Wee's Playhouse. Was there Lawrence Fishburne? That was an acting role he had earlier in his career. He played Cowboy Curtis. Another thing for German stuff, well, I guess Swiss things too, is that my dad and mom chose my older sister and our names from being in Switzerland, and so Matthias for me, and then Annalise for my sister. And my dad's Swiss friend was like, don't name her that, that's a grandma's name. And I don't know if it's come back into fashion in Germany, but over time I've heard far more people naming their daughters Annalise or Annalise and the last like 10-15 years, as opposed to growing up when it was a pretty uncommon occurrence. Come across an American girl named Annalise or Annalise, and spelled a few different ways. Matthias is also a biblical name. He's the dude who replaced Judas. He was the 13th apostle and the only one, or the first one that wasn't appointed by Jesus. There's just a little bit of a jump. Well, that's the other thing. They're making a Redwall series. I don't know if anyone in the room ever read those guys. That series where you had woodland creatures in monasteries and abbey or whatever things, like medievalish stuff. And the mouse, like the main mouse in at least the first book, it goes back and forth as to the timeline and who the main characters are. But his name is Matthias the Mouse. They might say it Matthias, I don't know. There's a few different ways that people pronounce it. Now, let's put this back here. And get a new reference one going. The ruler? Get my Sharpie, which shows up a bit easier. And this one's going to be faster. I might make this one a little bit exaggerated, where the previous ones have been just along these linear lines, equidistant, but I might try to exaggerate this sort of front edge. If this is conceivably moving forward, if I have it accelerate faster on this bit, I can play a little bit more with the three-dimensionality and the sense of acceleration. Let's say this frame 20, what? 22. draw this additional line that it just told me. Wait, no, do I have one? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I'm just struggling visually with this. This is not me being lazy at a different point. It's just me not having as clear of an understanding of the motion. Once I get done with this one, I might hop in, or I might step out for a moment, but be back soon after that. And the music will still play, and I'll write a little thing that says, "Be right back," as I've done before. Four. I'm gonna have to cut some more paper. And 6. This one will take a minute to fill in the black solid areas. 7. I don't know if I've got my be right back thing pre-done, but I'll just read it now. Be back in a few minutes. Sorry. Okay, now I'm back. And while doing this, I'm going to cut some paper in half. Get a good amount of paper. This is how I prep my paper. It's just 9x12 is the easiest size to get tracing paper in bulk. That's not too large or too small, but it is too large for, if I just do it straight up, for my flatbed scanner. My scanner only accommodates like up to 8.5 by 11 is a standard size that it most accommodates. So anything larger than that, even if it's just like 1 inch in either direction, it's a pretty tight fit. And so I cut it down, it makes it a more reasonable amount. The paper goes twice as far. I used to, when I was starting out, I'd cut things, I had pads of tracing paper and I didn't have any money, so I would cut it into like 1/16ths and have very small things. Also at that time I was mostly making animated GIFs, and the resolution at the time for those was a maximum width of 500 pixels. So I could scan things at like 300 dpi, and as long as it was 2 inches wide, it would be fine. That was older Tumblr stuff, which I still upload to Tumblr, but I usually upload at like 1080 wide just because that's what I save stuff to prep it for Instagram. Save it at 1080 wide. So next step is going to be hole punching these. I just have a like moderate. It says that it is rated for like up to 40 sheets, but I find that it works better if you're doing a little bit less than that. Like 20 to 25 sheets usually have a better outcome than if I try to do a full 40 sheets of paper. And consistency is important. Moderate consistency is important for what I'm doing. I can fix it a little bit in post, but it takes an additional amount of time that if I'm more consistent earlier on, then I have fewer or less necessity to augment those bits of things. This is the shakiest and the loudest thing that I do, so sorry if I know that. What's his name? Scott, I think he's a guy. He was saying that I'm trying to figure out what's the factory edge. I think this is the factory edge. You were saying that it's meditative or calming to watch this, and me doing these hole punches is not the most calming or meditative aspect of this process. But I underestimated how many pages I would need and how much paper I had left. So the combination of those two things results in me needing more paper to be prepped. Just do a soft touch, and then that's an example of it pulling a little bit, so you get some odd edges there because it's squeezing the paper rather than punching it. So more paper you can get through, but it's not as smooth. Okay, now we're back to animating. Hola, Oli. Hello, Anna. So next we gotta figure out, this will be a little bit off, but that's just how it happens. Next thing is to see about trying to, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll probably do a quick movement that makes it larger. So this is going to be a reference, reference 1. So here's the base spot. See if I can get this a little bit more square. And then, where does this end up? This ends up out there. So I think I'm just going to draw something in this space. That looks particularly uneven from the overhead shot. Let's get this a little bit tighter. Ruler, Sharpie, and redo this. Just clean it up, because this is not the most accurate bit that I've going right now. Thanks for joining Not Your News. Appreciate you watching. Hope that you feel better and feel less sick. I will post this to Instagram. You can also, if you want to finish watching, this is a stream sort of thing, you can watch it later tonight on YouTube. The links for both of those things are right here. So, YouTube, Instagram, those will both have versions of this that are sort of fitting for those spaces. And let me pull this back up. See what's happening there while monitoring the general stuff happening here. Okay. Go flip that tape in just a moment. This is the most that I've had to flip the tapes in a period of time. But that's because these two tapes are a little bit shorter. Oh, wait, no. Was that the second flip of this? No, that was on side B initially. So I played half of it. Each side of the cowbell and the hand clapping tape they're both 30 minutes as opposed to 45 because the tape's a bit shorter. I ordered some more tapes that are a little bit longer form, which take longer for me to fill out, but they make for an easier experience day to day because they're a bit longer. Okay, so this one I'm planning on doing pretty quick for the transition. Stays here. This is the sort of core reference. Maybe I do this in like 2. This is number 29. I guess I can get rid of this. Just being what it is, I don't need to know the full shape. I can just run against this line here. One. Two. Three. Now, let's go back to the start. That runs inside. is 34. Yep. $35. $36. I counted correctly. Oh, like, I thought I said 35 when I lifted up the paper. Nothing was there. And I realized the situation at hand. I had to grab 2 pieces of paper. Crazy stuff. $37. Excuse me. It's a weird tasting burp. I had a peanut butter sandwich for lunch, and then I was like, there's still some kimchi in the fridge, I'd like a piece of that. So a little bit of sweet and fermented, not the best combo. Probably make it work if you knew more about flavor profiles or stuff, I don't know. But at this moment I wouldn't recommend it. It's not a recommendation of peanut butter and kimchi together. And then soda as well, so that you have more carbonation happening in your system. I'm going to actually make this 39 and try to do a tween, an in-between frame. So I can end up with an even 40 and it has a little bit softer of a motion. Take this tail end 38. Before we do that, my hand slipped a little. There's a chance that I numbered these incorrectly, but my intention is to have 40 frames total, which makes this animation, let's see, 2.66666 seconds. Next step is adding a face. In case of this guy, the face is just displaced. So I might actually, for the sake of ease, on my part, just do this as a tracing action. These squares, the transition bit, they're the same size. So I don't have to do, at this point it's an automated bit. This in general is a more sort of automated animation because so many of the components are just geometric. We're getting close to where these are going to line up. Still got a frame or two. See how it's right. Yeah. I should just be tracing for the next like 5 frames. Just tracing this face in the same spot. I gotta be cognizant, especially of that bottom lip line, because I tend to like re-dip my brush at that point to get a cleaner thing. And then I apply it a little bit heavier, so maybe I should start there so that it has more time to dry. It's probably a better thing to do. Nice, end up with the eyes. Okay, I need to do the eyes and the mouth before other components. After this, it should be relatively not straightforward, but I won't have to be referencing previous frames because the scale is changing. I'll be referencing previous frames, but I don't have to take an element and reposition it to align it accurately. It'll either be different enough from the scale changing and position to where it's not necessary. Also, the movement will be faster, so I don't have to be as precocious or precocious with the positioning of the faces as being as accurate, because if something's moving slowly and it's inconsistent, it's very present. That's why slow motion animation is particularly time consuming and a bit difficult. There just must be an outline there. And still. The next bit, this face is going to scale down, and so at that point I've got a little bit more wiggle room, a little bit easier to, there's more changing from one frame to the next, and so I can be less exact with the animation. Now, I just sort of make my estimation. This isn't the most fun of a thing to estimate on, but it's not bad. moving pretty rapidly still at this point, so it's not terrible concern. Alright, thanks for watching. Appreciate you joining in, and let me know about your Terminator experience. If you want to watch this or other streams in full, I've got them on youtube.com/traceloops. There should be a link just on the thing, but I'll throw the link in again. So you got a few different links there that you can hit up if you want to follow on different platforms, but the YouTube one, I've got these streams in full. I record them. I know it's recording, but okay, just making sure again, because there have been a couple times where I don't start recording on time. But if you find them relaxing, you can watch them on your own time as well. Just can't interact with things. Gonna eat up a decent amount of ink, but that's okay. I've got ink. Because this whole area is gonna be solid black later on. I'll finish this face, and then I'll switch out the T. Yeeps. Well, that shouldn't be there. Go back and reference the first one. I'm going to eventually just be returning to this. So I'd like to be able to see what it is I'm coming back to. This stage is kind of easy. last outline. So this one. And 40. Anyway, it's gonna be a minute of filling stuff in. So let's zoom out a bit. I'll likely need to refill this ink for the end of this stream. Okay, make sure I flip the tape at some point. I don't listen to the music, I just watch it on the monitor, or on the levels a little bit. I'll finish this and then I'll flip that tape. crack my back on the floor. And the screw that was missing. Nope, that's all I have. I'm gonna screw this back in. 1 second. It's a yellow phone that my mom sent me. I tried taking it apart out of curiosity. I'm gonna mute my microphone for a second and watch a video that I got sent because I'm curious. Now I'm back. Okay, thanks for being patient as I stretched for a moment and watched a video someone sent me. Just wanted to watch it. Oh, yeah, okay. It's like the whole reason I got up was to flip the tape, so I needed to make sure that I actually had done it. Let's try this one, see if it's acting better. If not, I might have to break in a new brush. Refill my ink. This is an ink heavy animation because it's got a lot of just solid areas. Still have a few that are pretty ink heavy, but I think I'm through the heaviest use frames. I have a bruise on the finger. Not the case. Trying to remember the name of the movie, and I'm going to figure it out. The Farewell, that's what it is. I thought it was like the Homecoming or something. I was trying to think. Something about that movie. Today is Lunar New Year, or the start of Chinese New Year stuff. Lunar New Year, so it also is in Korea as well, but it's a very loose understanding for me on the Korean aspect of it. And I was thinking about whether or not my personal awareness of some different aspects of Chinese culture is reflected in the general consciousness of American culture, of worldwide culture, more so, or if it's just my own experiences and because I'm aware of it, I notice it more. I'm not sure. It's probably a little bit of both. Yawning. We're over halfway done with filling these in. Yes, okay. Time passes and I'm like, sometimes I'm not sure if when I said like, I'll just finish this frame, I got distracted and then started a new one and then time passed. chance that I got ink on my face. A decent chance of it. Just generally a good chance of ink on my face. Frame 30 out of 40. So getting close to being done. Getting closer to being done. Getting closer. I don't know who was watching still. A good number. 7 folks. Appreciate it. One more frame after this. All right. How much time does it look like? Okay, so get all these together. They're a little bit more wrinkled because these have more ink on them. This one's sticking. No, it's just acting odd because I'm trying to shape all of these into a general. I'm impressed that I didn't seem to get any. Oh, maybe there's. Nope. Seems like I managed to not have any of them sticking together. Probably like 20 to 30 minutes away from the animation. In case you're wondering, it'll take maybe around 10 minutes to scan. Depends on how well I do with it, how efficient I am. And then add another 5 to 10 minutes for processing the image files. Why is it doing that? And I realize I'm going backwards. Sounds like these are out of order, and they are. 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11. Oh, I got an extra one. 10, 11, 11. And I'm gonna write just so I have 11, 11A and 11B. That's mostly for I'm gonna upload these for purchase if you want to buy them. They'll be in my web store, but I have to have something that identifies each of them individually. The easiest thing is just a number, but that number just do this from okay. So I can get this a little bit more centered. That number has to be unique to each of them, so if I make a mistake, I can get even tighter. If I make a mistake or repeat something, then it means that I have multiples. It doesn't work. I can't distinguish the individual still for sales. Other location, multiply designs, folder, paste that in, get rid of that tail bit, new folder, paste that in, that's the destination I want. This is going to be 600 dpi. I'm not going to use a custom size, instead we are going to use the B5 size. Positioned, and let's start scanning. Okay. Lotion on my hands, but I'll wait until after I'm done streaming so that I don't get lotion on materials or appliances. Actually a 41 skills because I accidentally labeled 2 of them and it's still number 11. Come on. Okay. Did not consider that this could go out of frame. But I think it's all in frame. We'll find out. on being about 25% done, which means that each one is slightly less than 2.5% of the overall animation. If it was 40, they'd be 2.5%. Play the cowbell one again because it went BA, so now I'm just doing side B. I like having them all on side A just because I prefer it. Excuse me. Just about coming up on being halfway done. Yeah. Yeah, that's stuck on my head because of a TikTok where there's a dude watching one of those like recipe videos that's chopped up super fast, and it has a little bit of the rhythm of dum da da dum da da dum dum da dum da da dum. Where the Prince Ali? Now I don't know any other parts of that song. The story I meant to make away for Prince Ali. Price Ali. What's the cost? Ali. Always a little bit closer to being done. About 3/4 of the way done. 75%. Tired. I should be wandered. It's my Friday night. Feeling alright. It's a Friday night. Gotta do laundry. Scanning. Yeah, scanning. Yeah, scanning. Yeah, scanning. Yeah, scanning. Last frame. Click. Undo. Scan results. Pull this guy up. rename these lines. Paste that down, rename them. Shop is open. That's just for my own sake, minimize that. Pull this up, we're going Photoshop. Files, scripts, load files into stack, browse. Live designs, 2-12, 2-12, whatever these are called today. Select all these, load them up. While that's being loaded up, these guys get to go in their own thing, and I'll zoom this out. Zoom out, yeah, okay. There is 2/12/2021 Blockhead perspective animation 41 frames. Let's see how many sketches of stuff I got. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, sketch is slash ref. Open. Finish this stuff up. Just about done. I'm yawning. Okay. Crop this down. Select preliminary action. Create frame animation. Make frames from layers. Over here, 0.1 second, reverse frames. It's gonna take a moment to resize all of these things. How are you doing, Zal? Okay, let's see these out. Hope your dinner's good. I'm gonna have leftovers. Oh no, again. I can't. I need to change this folder. Well, they got saved there, and save them over here as well. Alright, take a step back. Grab this guy, double it up. Turn all these invisible. darken. Now let's do a preliminary crop. And this guy, see if any of these are particularly off alignment. Don't seem to be. Let's make this a bit smaller. There's some curves on here. Darken this a little bit. Save these out for Instagram. It's a bit higher contrast. And change this in here. Save this for on board. Right times, close. Change the filing. That GIF. Render, jump over here, Photoshop this off, switch out this image. Grab this guy and there's the thing. This one feels like it could actually play back faster. This feels like a dated computer graphic or something, where you have like you have a bunch of stills playing back at a pretty slow speed because it's just the changes in the animation of things. Okay, spiel time. Yeah. Links. If you want to watch this, if you want to buy these stills or other things. Oh, sorry, I need to. Sorry, I didn't mean. I'll turn that off for the emoji thing. My bad. I'm still getting used to Nightbot and what its defaults are. But appreciate the sentiment of having all those emojis there. Nightbot. Log in Twitch. Was that? I'm gonna turn off the thing where let's see, spam protection. We are going to turn off that guy. Okay. There we go. You can hit more emojis now and you won't get your comment deleted. Thanks, Modal Milk, for the hearts. Okay, spiel time. I'm going to throw that selection of links back in there. If you want to buy the stills from today, or stills from other days, or this on a shirt, or a variety of other different merchandise and stills and things, you can go to traceloops.com/store. If you want to watch this in full as a stream, as well as previous streams and cassette tape things and such, you can go to YouTube. That's the longer form items are going to be there, youtube.com/traceloops. If you want to follow me on Instagram, Traceloops there, Instagram.com/Traceloops, TikTok, Traceloops there as well, TikTok.com/@Traceloops, and if you want to send an email if you're trying to get shipping outside of the US, or if you just have questions, concerns, want to set up a commission, stuff like that, you can email me, traceloops@traceloops.com. Appreciate you guys watching. And don't have too much more to talk about. Tomorrow will be a shorter form sort of thing, probably a Blockhead illustration or some face loop illustration, something like that, but more likely to be a still image deal. Yeah, not too much else to discuss at the moment. This one is coming up on being just about 4 hours. Took a little longer than I anticipated, but did a thing. Thank you all for watching. Plan on being back tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I head out. Adios.